I have just one question. What did you do last summer? Dun, 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 with a hook. I Know What You Did Last Summer 2025 is a continuation of this long dormant franchise that ended all the way back in 1998. What's that you're saying? They did a third one in 2006. No, they didn't. Shut the fuck up. Shut your goddamn little mouth. How dare you say such a thing? It doesn't exist. And we're just going to pretend that that film doesn't goddamn exist. And if you're unfamiliar with what I Know What You Did Last Summer is, well, you're probably too young to watch this video, and you're probably too young to talk to me. I was 16 years old when the first one came out. It was off the success of Scream, so they decided, let's just make everything a goddamn slasher. Let's make everything a goddamn horror. They got Kevin Williamson involved, which he originally, by the way, was going to try to pitch that, but then the success of Scream said, hey, we'll fund this. Oh, now you're going to listen to me, he was thinking. I bet that's probably what he thought. But that means that a hit can lead to a hell of a goddamn career. Kevin Williamson has certainly been involved in some interesting projects. He wasn't involved in this one. Anyway, I Know What You Did Last Summer coming out 28 fucking years ago. My God. My goddamn goodness. You had Jennifer Love Hewitt. 16-year-old me loved Jennifer Love Hewitt. 44-year-old me loves Jennifer Love Hewitt. My God, what an absolute beauty. What an enchantress. And what a tremendous actress. She was in a little bit of horror. She's been doing some television, Ghost Whisperer and 911. And some TV movies, and good on her. She's got a family, she seems happy, and she still looks oh so good. We have Freddie Prinze Jr., yes, a former WWE writer. Yes, believe it or not, he was a WWE writer. I always like to forget that because I think he loves wrestling. I don't think he knows how to pitch really good ideas. But Freddie Prinze Jr., yes, Fred from the Scooby-Doo live-action movies. And also this and Fever Pitch. Remember when Freddie Prinze Jr. was like a heartthrob for like a little bit? Still seems like a nice guy. But anyway, they played Ray and Julie, or Julie and Ray, strike that, reverse it. And also you had Ryan Felipe and you had Sarah Michelle Gellar. And you also had John Galecki and you had Anne Heche back when she still had her head attached. And basically you had an accident that led to a vow of secrecy, and these four teens that actually were more like early 20-something. I think for Ryan Felipe was 22 when the thing was filmed, 22, 23, depending on if it was filmed in late 96, early 97. And then a year later, somebody knows what they did last summer. It's The Fisherman. It leads to people being killed, kind of hilariously, but it's kind of a toned down slasher compared to like some of the stuff that we get now. But it had a nice breezy pace to it. It wasn't perfect. It certainly did have that 90s feel to it from the hairstyles and all that, and the tech. But it had some nice deaths and actually served a purpose. And because of the success of that, I think it made like $167-something million worldwide. And even if it made a little less than that, it didn't cost all that much and ended up doing really, really well as far as audience reception, to the point that they greenlit a goddamn sequel that really was rushed to production, where we had Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. returning, as they were the only characters that survived. Sorry, spoiler alert, the movie has been out for a long goddamn time. And also Brandy was there. Yes, fresh off of Moesha, unless Moesha was still happening at that point, and also from The Front Room. God, I wish Brandy had returned with a better movie. Boy, do I ever. But they end up going to the Bahamas, and, well, the fisherman and his son show up. I'm sorry, again, spoilers. Jennifer Esposito was in the I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, and my God, my God, what an absolute beauty she is. There and now. So, that after things ended basically there, and I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, they decided to have the fisherman just be a flat-out ghostly, spectral, possessing thing. Not that I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer was going to be great, but, well, let's be perfectly honest. Even if they had gone with the original pitch that apparently was like in 2000, 2001, Jennifer Love Hewitt didn't want to be in more horror movies. I don't blame her. She's a good screen queen. What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for? And then she did the line, you know, come get me, I'm right here. That being said, the original pitch, I guess, was going to be to continue this whole story. They largely ignore the third one for this installment that was written and directed by Jennifer Caton Robinson, who did Do Revenge, I feel like Seeking Revenge on this film, and Thor Love and Thunder. I'm going to basically just not mix words here. I'm not going to be very kind to this movie right here. I'm not going to be very kind to it at all. I like the first one, even have a little bit of nostalgia for it. The sequel is absolute dog shit. I'll always know what you did last summer, even though we don't count it into canon, and they ignore the fact that it exists. They basically, recognize the first one, but even events from the second one as far as tying into this, because it's continuing the fact that there are a couple legacy characters returning, and we also get a new crop of people. It just seems to be made with the mindset that they're just going to beat us over the head with fucking nostalgia and also try to keep us simultaneously so busy, yet incomprehensibly dull, that it's actually almost mind-numbingly, stupefying just how bad every aspect of this movie is. I mean, it's actually, quite frankly, astonishing just how stupid this movie ends up being. Now, not that it started out all that great, and having a load of nostalgia and trying to have it be a little bit busy is all right, but this thing ends up being padded out to like an hour and 50 minutes once the end credits roll, and there's enough material for maybe 80. The story, allegedly, was done by Leah McKendrick, Leah McKendrick, that is, who did Scrambled. Scrambled was a terrific movie. You should check that out. I think it's on Hulu or some streaming service. And Sam Linsky did something as far as writing. I don't know what the fuck he wrote, but if he wrote any of the funny jokes in this, he needs to be kind of put on trial for a lot of this humor, because this humor is really, really bad. He did I Wish You All the Best. I wish everybody the best in their future endeavors, because my God, if this didn't have massive studio interference or an act of God didn't basically just force them to make the worst movie possible, then I really do not have an explanation for how bad this ends up being. So basically we get Madeline Klein as Danica, who's kind of the Sarah Michelle Gellar, the Helen of the group. And then we have Chase Sue Wonders, who is in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. She plays Ava. Nobody ends up like Ava Braun, unfortunately. And we have Teddy Tariq Withers. This movie is withering away as things went on. And we also have Milo. I didn't write the actor's name down for Milo. I think it was Jonah Howard King. I think something like that. And we get that quartet. We also get another girl named Stevie that happened to be part of the group and everything. And one night they're just going along, playing, having fun, and an accident ends up occurring, something that they swear to secrecy. And then a year later, their footage was found. And Josh was standing in the corner as everybody was screaming, Josh. No, an accident happens, leads to a death. They end up basically having to swear to secrecy, and now they're all kind of divided and stuff like that, but they must come together back in Southport that has that bad history where some of the townsfolk are trying to make it a tourist attraction, but the fisherman has other ideas and will stalk these people to the ends of the town limits, I guess, is really about it. So I didn't really have high hopes for this movie. In fact, I had pretty low hopes. In fact, my hopes were so goddamn low, they were practically under the Earth's crust. And they somehow couldn't even achieve matching those. I do not have any goddamn idea if any of the people involved in this had actually ever seen I Know What You Did Last Summer. And if they did they retain only the bad parts? And there were some bad parts in that. Maybe they watched I'll Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Or I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. And maybe they ended up seeing, hey, wait a second, we can make a movie like that, only worse. This is worse than I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. And I will explain why. That movie was rushed in production and was pretty goddamn shit as far as the editing, as far as just the twists and all that. And this movie tries to hit us over the head with nostalgia while also trying to have it be about female empowerment. It has sloppy editing. It has terrible kills. It has music sometimes that dominates the goddamn scene. The ADR is all over the goddamn place. The green screen effects are terrible. It's like it was rushed. It's like Black Christmas 2019, except, well, no, it's not that bad, but it's pretty goddamn close. And when you can somehow make me think of Black Christmas 2019, which is a review I got killed for on social media, not necessarily in the comments on the video. I'd have to go back and look at those, except that would take forever. I do not understand how you could look at this and think of it as anything other than just a pure cash grab. And maybe the people were trying to seek out doing something good, but everything from the fact that their stoic line reading, the character motivations changed left, right, and center, The twist is so fucking goddamn telegraphed. It practically is a neon sign once they introduce one particular character and they introduce one particular plot point. I'm keeping it as spoiler-free as possible. We're gonna get a twist, here's who it is, here's who it is. And you want to talk about butchering legacy characters, this isn't as bad as Ellen Burstyn, or Burstyn, the one that was in The Exorcist. The one that was the mother in The Exorcist, how they used her. Remember how they used her? They don't use the legacy characters here as badly. And I would sort of understand where they were going with it, but here's my problem. The motivations don't make sense. None of it makes sense. They heap on exposition about Julie and Ray, because yes, Julie and Ray are back. They were showing the trailer, so if you've seen the trailer, it's not exactly a fucking spoiler. And we find out, that they have a bit of a divide as far as their relationship and everything. But basically, the best way to describe this is another summer, another murder cover-up, another vow of silence, and another fisherman. Not a Gordon fisherman, not even the fisherman that would, not even a fisherman like from, Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. None of that. No cel-shaded stuff here, just really bad green screen. And I'm going to be perfectly honest. Well, maybe it's just nostalgia clouding my goddamn mind and flooding my brain as far as the first one. Sarah Michelle Gellar had just started Buffy. I think Buffy actually was just going as that movie was getting going. As that movie was, like in the summer. I think first season of Buffy had either just ended or was just in the midst of going. Freddie Prinze Jr. was on the ascent. You could check out his family lineage and acting. Jennifer Love Hewitt was in Party of Five. Ryan Felipe would soon be in Cruel Intentions and a few others until he went absolutely just tits up and crazy. I don't understand how you could lose Reese Witherspoon. I mean in Cruel Intentions. Or do I mean in real life? You'll have to find out. But just watching this movie beat you over the head with nostalgia. Like, oh, nostalgia's overrated. This kind of stuff. And I'm throwing out some lines that if you have seen the movie are kind of spoilers, but also kind of not. I just cannot, emphasize enough just how lazy and flimsy and floppy and just bullshit this movie is. Even the kills aren't all that great. They try to up the stakes instead of a hook, a harpoon gun. There are little Easter eggs that tie into stuff from the first movie. And we do have a couple characters that are introduced. I did like Stevie. I did like the actress who played Stevie. Sarah Pigeon, or Pigeon, however you say it. She looked good. I did like Gabriette, who played Tyler, who was like a character that she made the most of her television time. She looked good. Australian model, apparently. And there are elements to this that could have worked, but the thing is Bing, we have, the opening credits of just like the first one, where we're panning over Southport's coast, and we're not playing Summer Breeze by Typo Negative. We're not playing that because we're going to play bad music. Not that Typo Negative was exactly a ringing endorsement of 90s music, but at least it was something that sounded like music. Some of the shit in this, I don't know what the fuck it is. I don't know if it's You Kids Get Off My Lawn or whatever, but the music wasn't all that great. We get introduced to the characters, bang, the thing happens, and then we go on, and it is just so lazy. And in fact, it's a while before any killings happen, and even when the killings happen, you don't really care about the characters. I'm sorry. Like, Madeline Klein apparently has quite a few fans, and I really, really do hope that those fans are very happy with this, but if this is an example of her acting in horror, she may want to find something else to do, like more television projects. Chase Sue Wonders, or Sue Wonders, however you say it, was fine. In fact, she was more of the lead character than anything. Tariq as Teddy was just kind of typical jock. The guy who played Milo was okay. And Stevie actually probably was like the best, the best character as like far as a side character, because instead of 4, we have 5 this time, and it just ends up being just such a mind-numbing experience. a silly, simplified slasher that also tries to have this, theme at the end. It just keeps chucking stuff at you in hopes that you will just stay busy and you'll be awed by all this stuff happening, and you'll realize the movie doesn't have anything to say at all. It is in theaters if you want to check it out, but I'm going to get into spoilers because I got more things to say, and I think I've talked long enough about various things. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So, this movie really should have been titled Bored on the 4th of July, because it takes place on the 4th of July. The characters are not interesting. They really have no arc. We have it where Danica, Madeline Klein, is going to end up marrying Teddy, that is. Teddy's rich, and Danica, I guess, has money also, but Teddy's very rich. His dad, Grant, Billy Campbell, is trying to do some more realtor stuff and really enhance the tourist attraction of Southport. Again, after the murders all happened, Stevie was a former friend of theirs. It turns out, as we find out a little bit going on, that she had a bit of a bad life. Her dad may have, squandered a whole bunch of money. She may have gone into an institution. She may have not been doing all that well, but she's picking up her, she's picking up her life. She's doing stuff. She's working catering for, Danica and Teddy's reception. And then while these two girls, Ava and Danica are dressed in incredible dresses. They look great. Do not get me wrong. These young ladies look great. But it's more like prom dresses or really, really fancy dresses where you might go to a club or a social gathering. Not out drinking like they did where, in the first one where that's what happened. Ryan Felipe ended up, spilling some alcohol and they ended up hitting the guy and all that. Instead, this time, Stevie comes along with them. There's somebody that ends up almost running Teddy down because Teddy's being a, big old drunk, stupid idiot. And then they end up, he ends up doing it again. And this truck ends up going into the barricade rail and tips over. I mean, it's kind of like, balancing on this. And they're trying to pull, it's like this 1-ton Dodge truck that was in 98 and stuff like that. Harkening back, of course, to a better time when I guess vehicles wouldn't just turn to goddamn powder. Because that's back when vehicles were men and sheep were scared. I don't think that's how the phrase goes, but let's just roll with it. They end up trying to pull the truck up these people that I'm sure have some kind of strength, but I don't think 4 grown people are going to be able to get that. And the person ends up bursting out of the goddamn vehicle, or the window, and grabs Teddy's shirt, his Hawaiian type shirt, and then the truck goes over. Much like what happened when the fisherman, or the person they hit, the fisherman, grabbed Helen's necklace and then went over the goddamn side when he was still alive. So now they're unsure what to do. Teddy calls his dad, and they just decide to go home. Maybe they're going to go to the police station. No. Basically, Danica says, no, we're going to swear to secrecy. And Stevie even kind of agrees to go, and so I got more on that here in a little bit. And Stevie kept referring to her boss. She's got to get back to working for her boss. Don't worry, I'll get to that. But they swear to secrecy. A year later, basically, Stevie has stepped up to be Danica's friend. She's having a reception, or bridal shower, whatever the hell it is, because, you're thinking, that's nice, they just delayed it with Teddy. No, her and Teddy broke up. She's now dating a guy named Wyatt that becomes the first victim. Well, the second victim, technically. And we also have, we have Grant trying to do the realtor stuff. We have a guy named Pastor Judah that it factors into something a little bit later on. The movie tries to be busy with its characters while giving its characters no characteristics at all. And even before all that stuff happened, one of the lines I think Danica said, this is called Reaper's Curve for a reason. Yeah, the movie should have feared the Reaper and should have gone over the side itself. So, we then smash cut to Ava arriving back in Southport, where she is just going, her and Tyler are going to town on each other. Tyler, of course, Gabrielle, I have to say that was certainly an appealing scene. We should have seen more of that. But it turns out that Tyler is also going to Southport and is getting a ride. And has a podcast, Live, Laugh, Slaughter. And is going to talk about the Southport murders in '97. Almost like we can't get away from the past. Like this movie doesn't want to get out of the shadow of the '97 one. Which, by the way, again, wasn't all that great. But at least had the slasher element down. So, while Danica's trying to calm down, she puts a bath bomb in and does meditation stuff while listening to Beats by Dre, or some Beats by Dre meditation stuff. And the bath bomb looks like blood, and suddenly Wyatt is there and then gets a harpoon gun right there through his shoulder, and then the hook, because he is jolly hook shotable. That is a deep, deep cut for Zero Punctuation fans. Yahtzee Croshaw and everybody did the right thing going to second wind. But yeah, Wyatt ends up getting killed, hilariously, I might add, and they make it sound like the fisherman is about the size of a Galactus with how loud the footsteps are. But somehow she managed, despite the fact she gets out of the bath pretty quickly, they managed to have a time. The killer, just spoiling that right there because I'm in the spoiler section, had time to display the body of Wyatt and say, "You can't escape the past." I wish I could have escaped this movie. This movie was interminable with how long it lasted. And Tyler Wright says, "This place is so beautiful, it makes me want to die. This movie was so terrible, it made me want to die." I was supposed to do a double feature of this in Eddington, by the way, and despite the fact that I was excited to see the new Ari Aster movie, and you may already see a review of it by the time you end up watching this, I decided I'm going to watch that this weekend because that's a 2.5-hour movie. This is a 2-hour movie. I'm in the midst of working 10 straight days. And this movie pretty much just broke my spirit. This really broke my spirit. So thank you, Sony. Thank you for breaking my spirit. Thank you for making me wish that The Fisherman had gotten you, Sony executives. So by the way, we have Tyler and Ava meet, and it's just, again, and it's hilarious and everything. We didn't get another scene like them making out in the bathroom. I would have liked to have seen that. But, we do get a funny part where there's like a diner or a restaurant and everything. And remember, they had the fake out thing with Sarah Michelle Gellar's character where you thought it was going to happen at the beauty shop, but it ended up actually happening in the alleyway after she escaped another place, just within earshot of everybody, but because the parade was so loud, she got killed. They talk about, this diner or restaurant, that's where she died. She actually died in the alleyway. They couldn't even get that fact right, but it's fine. It's fine. Suddenly, the fisherman shows up. Now, you wonder how the fisherman's able to show up and everything, and just out of nowhere, Cinderella story. But, a cage just comes down, like a crab cage, or whatever the fuck it is. Comes down and traps her. Traps Ava, and Tyler ends up getting up this dummy elevator, or dumbwaiter, I think is what it's called. There is certainly a dumbwaiter. This thing certainly need to be waiting out in sewage, not even water as far as I'm concerned. But Tyler ends up getting killed, hung, and now there's a town hall meeting. They're trying to figure out all this stuff and figure out the best way. Grant doesn't want to give in to hysteria because he wants to bump up the tourism, and the police are really incompetent at their job, probably because they're in the pocket of Grant, who somehow just has all this endless money. So it turns out that Julie James is actually teaching about trauma and stuff at a college 45 minutes away from Southport. And then says, over time, if you don't deal with your trauma deals with you. Yeah, I got trauma while watching this. I think it was blunt force trauma. I think blunt force trauma would have hurt less than some of the dialogue here. But Ava basically ends up talking to her and says, I need your help. And she says, well, this is personal to whoever it is, so get them before they get you. By the way, Stevie's boss is Ray. Freddie Prinze Jr. has his own restaurant that's called Billy Blue. Gee, God, I wonder how he's involved in this whole thing. Billy Blue, by the way, tying back to the boat in the other one. Just saying. And They again, should have just had a neon sign over who the fuck the killer was. So, at one point, all the people are gathering, all the people that are still alive, the main four and everything, and the idea is, oh shit, let's just fuck off to the Bahamas for a bit. And without, for reasons I won't go into, I wouldn't do that. Aha, because the second one was a mistake. Yeah, it was a mistake, it really was. Despite the fact Brandy was in it, Brandy certainly tried. So, we just keep getting set pieces and everything. It was like, remember how Hard Eyes would go from location to location, but at least would kind of earn its laughs and earn its blood and earn its fun? This tried to do that, just with certain set pieces, because that would have callbacks to other slashers. This had a callback to the first one with the parade float that Helen was on, and then that would lead to Ryan Felipe's death and all that stuff when she was the homecoming, or the previous homecoming queen. But Danica's there and ends up basically getting a massive, massive head injury. So she acts really loopy. Not that you could tell, because Madeline Klein kind of had the stupefied expression on her face. But Teddy suddenly conveniently hits the goddamn, just shoulder blocks the goddamn killer and knocks it off this perch. You better run, motherfucker, because Teddy, being the badass, kind of looked like Pete Davidson with a really bad tan at some points. But now she's got a head injury. There's also scenes with Julie. Julie and Ray, by the way, were married for a bit, but Ray stayed back in Southport. It was kind of divisive marriage, and they aren't married anymore. Julie is living in a secure home, all that stuff, and she's having these security alerts, but it turns out Ray showed up, and Ray said, "Hey, I'm coming to check on you." Oh, wait, you shouldn't have told them that about, going after the killer, because now the killer's going to go after them. So all the shit's going on. I mean, I don't mind them using legacy characters, but good God, it was like they were in two completely different movies, despite the fact they were tying into the same one. But it's like they didn't even know what I Know What You Did Last Summer movie was supposed to be. There's a fisherman with the hook. There's the two legacy characters. There's other idiots that are doing something. But the thing is, in the first one, they hit somebody. In this, it was a prank. It went wrong, and they tried to save the person, but that didn't end up working. So, realistically, we just have these dumbass people that are just trying to move on with their lives, despite the fact there's really nothing worth enjoying in life, because their lives don't really fucking mean anything. You have Danica with a whole bunch of money, Teddy with a whole bunch of money, Milo at one point stays with Milo and Ava stay there, and they finally end up getting it on, and she even says, "Choke me, I deserve to be punished." I go, okay, see, that's my kind of girl. I'm moving on. I'll let you decide which end I like to be on. But nevertheless, Milo ended up basically kind of getting freaked out about all this, which, I could kind of understand if you are attracted to somebody, because there was this illusion he was attracted to her. And then he takes off, charges his phone, and then saying, she wants to be punished, choke her, go ahead and choke her. See, choke her, damn near killed her. But then he tries to go back in. He ends up getting killed, hilariously, I might add, put in the back of his car. The killer ends up texting him from the phone and says, "Need some space, we'll call you when I can." And then Danica, because I guess she's still dealing with the head injury, hallucinates the fact that Helen is there, and Helen, they have Sarah Michelle Gellar there, whatever. She's bleeding at one point because she says, "There's nothing good for you outside of this dream. Stay in the dream as long as you can." So then hilariously, and this is probably the most hilarious part of it, Teddy ends up getting killed. They try to harken back to Scream with Drew Barrymore, the opening where he can't get to his mom or whoever the woman is, and he ends up getting killed. And he's almost dead. He's only mostly dead. And then Grant, who's sipping alcohol, you would have thought he might have had something to do with it, because he's basically implying, "Hey, let's cover all this up," because Ava and Danica are actually locked in the police station at this point. A lot of stuff's going on, yet nothing's going on at the same time. It's remarkable. And Grant is trying to, take care of his son, hold the blood in his goddamn body, but then he gets hooked in the goddamn neck and face and whatever, and he's dead. So this fisherman just doesn't give a fuck. And then we see that the bodies of Grant and Teddy are displayed just long enough for our stars to see that. Like, oh my God, the girls see that. And then the police are like, nothing to see here, and they cover it up with stuff. You could have done that a little sooner, but we needed that artsy shot. And then basically they take off on the boat. We have the girls, and we have Milo's dead, Teddy's dead. We have Danica and Ava taking off, and Stevie's there. Because Stevie's the killer. Because it turns out all this time, by the way, I mentioned a pastor, the boy that ended up dying was named Sam Cooper. They saw Sam Cooper's grave earlier. And it turns out through all this research, there was a scene I forgot to mention that they were talking about, or they were talking to Hannah, that I believe worked also with Stevie. And she was like, there was a beautiful like stained glass window like in the church, which was really kind of good. It didn't really look like a church, it looked more like a warehouse. But the pastor, it turns out, knew Sam well, because Sam was his son. Stevie was in rehab, basically losing her goddamn shit after the dad wasted all the money and stuff like that. She spiraled. She got rescued in rehab, essentially. The pastor took pity on her. Ray gave her a job, but Sam was her guy, her significant other. And he was on his way, after stealing a truck that was under his dad's name, to get Stevie, but then the trick runs off the goddamn thing, and Stevie wanted to leave. The thing is, Stevie didn't know that he took the truck, so now she wants to punish them because they took her significant other. And then Ray conveniently just happens to show up. Now, Danica has been sent into the goddamn drink after getting hook shot, whatever, no, hook shot. Jolly hook shotable, as it were. And we then have Ray show up, and he shoots Stevie. Shoots her. Stevie falls over. Ray ends up taking Ava, because Danica's gone over the side. She's done. That's it. But then Julie is taking a look at her house and everything and figures out some stuff like, oh, Stevie's been shot and all this and everything's going on. Then she's looking and she's like, wait a second, that's Ray's employee, and looks online and, oh shit, oh, it's him. Oh, it's him. Yeah, we just figured, yeah, Ray's in on it. Ray's in on it because he said they tried to erase us. The best way to bring, bring our memories back as a really good killing spree, murder spree, or whatever. Because he just went full on insane staying in Southport because he hated what happened to them. Even though they did kill a guy, they didn't mean to, but they did kill a guy. They got away with it. They got away with it, and I'll still know what you did last summer. More on that here in the mid-credits scene, which, yes, there's a mid-credits scene, but we end up basically getting Julie showing up and saying, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Trying this nostalgia. The cause is lost at this point, folks. And then we get the harpoon gun from Ava after she got knifed, but somehow had the power to shoot the harpoon gun right through Ray, and Ray died. And then all that. And then Ava and Danica are beat up. Because Danica's alive, by the way. Somehow was found on the beach alive. Just floated there. Poker with a goddamn floating there, just laying there on the beach like the goddamn robot in Robot Dreams. Watch Robot Dreams, by the way. Better use of a beach than this. And they're talking about all this stuff. And the line, and I don't understand how in the world this would have felt earned with the way the narrative was going. It's like, this could all have been avoided if men just went to therapy. I mean, I guess if Ray went to therapy, but okay, but Stevie was in rehab. It didn't help her. And the pastor was killed just because he knew too much about whatever, and it just... By the way, the mid-credits scene ends up seeing Brandy. Yes, Brandy is just there, just there, sitting in her house with her husband. Stevie is somehow still alive, despite getting shot in the head. Maybe it was a blank. Maybe she pretended to go over. Maybe she just has a skull made of steel. I don't really know, honestly. I refuse to care at this point. And Julie basically wrote a note, it isn't over, and says, who are we going to fuck up this time? Brandy says, I was really hoping you'd say that. And just, what is this? Pick a tone. Pick a tone. You're not funny. You're not scary. The kills are shit. I know what you did last summer, didn't know what it wanted to be. And I didn't think that this was going to be much, and it amounted to so much more of the wrong stuff and so much less of anything that made the first one work. It amounted to even less of what made I still know what you did last summer work. Gets an F. It's terrible. It's terrible. Letterboxd review is up if you want to check it out. So, agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rentland. Until we meet again, happy trails, fishermen, to you.